further?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. So just click on that and see if there are any snapshots right now. Yeah, so there is one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one. So try removing it. What does it say?
Did it, right?
Yeah, try deleting it.
It is currently being
I think
used
this
by
is something AMI. Okay, yeah. So you have to detach it first. All right. So, all right, it won't get deleted. Just try deleting it. It won't get deleted.
How do I detach it?
Yeah. So right click on that again. Let's see which AMI it is. Right click on that. Just right click on that one again on the snapshot. On the snapshot.
Yes, I have.
Okay. And all right. Yeah. So you have. Okay. So let's go to AMI. Let me see the AMI number. If you can just expand it, it says 06251. Okay. Click on your AMI. And then yeah, it's this AMI. So right click on that. And you can say for now deregister. Just to deregister for now. Okay, continue. Do a continue.
Yeah.
Done? Okay,
yes.
Now go back to your snapshot. And now remove it.
Okay. All right. Deregister. Okay. I got it.
Okay, yeah, that's all. So that should do the trick for you. All right, that's cleaned up. Right, so I can see my screen now?
Yes.
All right, so let me do that. Firoz, can you share the screen with me? Can you make me the organizer, please? Firoz? Let me quickly ping him. I think he is not at his desk. Let me give him a call. All right, so let's get started. I have got the access. Let me see if my screen is visible. Let me check my audience view. Let me try sharing it one more time. All right, so let me do a clean screen. Okay, so is my screen visible to you? Let me check my audience view. It says waiting for the screen. Okay,
yes.
So it is good. It's visible. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's log into our console. And today we will be starting with networking components. Before that, let's just understand it a little. So what it is. So at AWS, we create everything at VPC level. So we have something called AWS Infrastructure, which is your complete AWS. Right, within that you can have number of VPCs or anything. So now within that I can have number of VPCs created. So I have created a VPC and I have created, let's say, another VPC. right? So that's how I have designed it. Now VPC is where my resources will stay. So in this VPC, let's say I have 2 EC2 instances, 2 DB instances, 2 DB instances, and other things, right? And then I can connect to the outside world, maybe using a gateway, which will be, so in this case, if gateway is here, so it will be connected to one of the gateways through which I can access my internet. Okay, for that, let me have EC2 instances here as well, and then DB as well. Okay, now, but before we will have anything, we need something called a router. That is important. And that's I'm going to design with this one.
What is that?
Okay.
What do you say, Rocco?
Yeah, router is something using which you connect your VPC to your gateway. So mainly it works like a channel which can connect to your network so that you can access internet through it. So it's router. You would have some router at your house, right? So maybe you are using internet and there would be a router fixed.
Okay.
So using, yeah. So what it does handle your networking protocols, and then it makes a communication between your internet gateway and your actual systems. So let's say these are 2 VPCs. First one I've created this one, and there is another one. Now when these VPCs talk, so one of these will be connected to your router. Okay, so let me get the other one. So this is how we connect. So mainly before you access, it has to be connected to router. And in this case, this is our EC2 instances, which is public. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to color my public EC2 instances with green. So this is public here, this is public here, and the private one with blue. Okay, and then these are anyways connected to their database at the back end. Let's say here, and we have that connection here. All right, so that's what we have. Now, so this one, which you see on the green, is your public EC2. So EC2, which has public access, that means you can access your internet from this. But then there is a private one, which is also attached. So there is a connection between them as well. And there is a connection between them as well. So this is why you do this design, because let's say you want to keep this EC2 instance internal to your VPC. So any resources created internally to your VPC can be connected through these private IPs. So it can be using only private IPs. So DB, this EC2 and this DB, they can only use private IPs. So they will have a private IP address, while this EC2 will have a private as well as public. Private one it will use to communicate among these resources, which is part of VPC, while the public one, it uses router to connect to your gateway. So there would be a layer of gateway as well. Let me just put that. So yeah, so here you will have a gateway which connects to your router, and then you can access your internet. So consider this is your internet. Okay, so that's how you design your VPC. Now, in some cases, you may need your private EC2 instance as well to access internet. What do you do to them? So in such cases, you create something called NAT gateway. So there would be a NAT gateway created. And how it works is that you will have your private EC2 instances will be connected to your NAT gateway this way. So let me just design it. And then this netway in turn can go and connect to your router. So that's how it connects to your router. So mainly what happens is you want to access internet from your private IP, but you still don't want this IP address to be exposed. In such cases, this particular IP, let me quickly just write it down. Okay, so that makes it easier. I'll say EC2 public. Okay, not a good color. That should be black. EC2 public. It is still not changed the color. So EC2 public. This is your EC2 public. This is EC2 private. And this is your EC2 private. And these are your DB1, let's say. Here, DB2. Similarly, here you have DB1, DB1, and DB2. So all these, they will have their IP, but something which is not connected to the outside world or to a router, they will have their private IP or DNS address, while something which is connected to your router, that will have public IP address as well. Now, whenever you have a requirement that you want to connect your private EC2 instances, you will use something called NAT instances here. So that will be NAT, which you'll be using it. Now, earlier days it was just NAT. Now you have something called NAT gateway as well. So earlier it was just NAT, and now we can use NAT gateways as well. So we'll be using that. And then you have router and gateway. So this is your router, and then this is your gateway. And that's your internet. Okay. Now inside this, I have just given you EC2, but you can have your web server EC2 instances, application server EC2 instances. You can have your ELB. You can have your databases. Your NoSQL databases. Any resources which you create, your CloudWatch, your CloudFront, everything can be inside this VPC. So when you create it, it will be all inside this VPC. So any resources you create, that is always inside this VPC. Now this is in terms of diagram what we see and how it works in terms of connection, and that's how it talks to the outside world or the inside world. And now we'll be creating this configuration. So far what we have done, we created EC2 instances, we created ELB, we created a number of resources. Now there are a few things which happens behind the scenes. So what are those? So when you create an EC2 instance, simply, so you select an AMI and you create it, right? And maybe you provide some details as storage, you provide security group. Okay, you choose your availability zone where it selects your subnet. So that means you were just doing the selection for this, and it was creating all this infrastructure for you. But there were a few things which were done internally. So what we would be doing now, so EC2 is something you will be creating at the end, because now you are going to create your VPC. So first we'll be creating VPC that will create a private cloud. So once private cloud is created, what we need next is we need to decide on addresses available to create our EC2 instances. So first we'll be creating security groups, which is important. So we'll create security group for permissions, and then we will be creating subnet where we will be deciding on private IP and public IP, right? So everything we would be doing now ourselves. And then you will have, so security group, subnet, then you will create a gateway, a router, NAT, gateway. So everything. So these all things will be created first, and then only you would be able to proceed and create your EC2 instances. So your virtual client would be ready with your firewall or security permissions, your gateways, your routers, your NAT gateways, your IP addresses, everything. So once you have all in place, we can go ahead and create EC2 instances or about anything within that environment. Now, what is the advantage of that? So when you create EC2 instances now, what happens? It gives you a default public address, right? Or IP, public IP or DNS name. But you can create something on what you want. Now, from the organization point of view, you definitely want that to be there, because then you need to keep your IPs at an allocated level, and it should be looking similar in case you want to buy certificates, perform load balancing, and rest of the other things. So it's important from that perspective. So let's just go and understand. So first step is learning on how to create VPC. So let's go for VPC service and try creating one. Okay, so I do have number of VPCs created. So now for each region, remember that for each and every region, there will be one VPC by default. One VPC by default for each and every region. Okay, so that's something you have to remember. And that default one, never delete it, because that's something created by AWS. And in case you delete it, then you'll have to go back to AWS and ask them that, I have deleted somehow and I need it. Okay, so before going into VPC, let's see what are the different ways to create it. So I can go to VPC and I can start creating it, but there is something called launch wizard. Okay, we won't be using it, but I'll just show you what it is and what are the different configuration of VPC which you can create. I've given you one of the scenarios, but here we'll be discussing a few others. So although this is very easy using wizard, it is again more like a selection process. You can select it and you can do it, but then you won't be getting the underlying stuff, how exactly it works. So we will just see that in terms of graphical interface, that there are different types of VPC selections available, but we won't be creating using this, because once you create it, it's really easy. I'll show you one of them. Okay, so this is your first configuration. So you can see that there are a number of configurations available. You have VPC with a single public subnet, VPC with public and private subnets, VPC with public and private subnets and hardware VPN access, and then VPC with private subnet only and hardware VPN access. So let's see first VPN with a single public subnet. So what it is? So that means you have your cloud. This is your cloud. Let me get a spotlight so that I can identify. So that's your cloud. This one right there. So the outer box is your virtual private cloud. So that's your private cloud where you have created resources. So you have created public subnet. So right now it's only talking about subnets, because subnet is required for any resources you create. You create the ELB, your EC2 instances, your databases, anything you create, they all uses this subnet addresses. So that's the primary thing. So you create a virtual private IP and then you create the public subnet. That means anything you create inside this cloud, private cloud, it will be exposed to internet. So you will be able to access it right from your console, from the internet. And what are such services? If you are using internet, S3, DynamoDB, SNS, SQS, all these services can be exposed to internet. So now if you have such a requirement where you want to work with SNS, S3, SQS, DynamoDB, you will be creating a public subnet. So it's simple. So you just create and make everything public. So you have public, and that's how you access your resource. So that's one way to do it. It's a straightforward process. Okay. So now let's see if we have to create it using this configuration wizard, how it works. So I'll show you for one of these. So let's see it for the first one. Okay. So that's where we are. And also remember, let's see what we have. This tells something CIDR block. What is that? Okay. So that is important. Just give me a minute. Let me catch up water. Okay. So that's a configuration wizard, which gives us automatic way to create our single public subnet. Okay, so we'll create that, but before that, let's just update this. So CIDR is called, it's again something from the older days. You have A class, B class, C class, and D class, right? So in respect to that, it's nothing but your classless inter-domain routing. That's what it is called. So classnet inter-domain routing. Okay, so what does that mean? So why it is here? So that actually decides your IP addressing and how your IP should be addresses. Now we won't be going for IPv6, that is still not being in use, but let's go for IPv4 addressing, which is, as we are seeing right now. For example, this is what is updated currently for us. Now this is something by default. So you get subnet as, so this is what you get by default, is what you'll be creating it for VPC, and number of public subnet you'll be creating is, the default one would be 10.0.0.0/24. Okay, so let's understand what is this, right? So how does this differs in terms of addressing? So you know that all these IPs, they are 32 bits, so it works like 8 bits, 8 bits, 8 bits, 8 bits, and that's, so 8 bits, all 8 bits, right? So number 10, so first one is 10, that means that address is being fixed, and then it says 16, that means up to here. So it is 8, 8, 16, 16 plus 8 is 24, and 24 plus 8 is 32. So altogether it's 32. Out of that, when you say 16, that means you're blocking first two addresses, right? So that means it will be something like 10.1, and then you will have rest of the other addresses available. Now how many address you have possible? So at 8 level you will have 0 to 255 addresses, so altogether 56, but at each level you have 0 to 255 addresses. Okay, now when you have that, when these two are fixed, then you have almost how much? 255 multiplied by 255, that would be your 65531 addresses available at your VPC level, right? And then when you come about this 24, when you say 24 for public IP addresses, what exactly you're doing is you're blocking these three. That means these three are already blocked, and you'll be utilizing addresses from there. And then in this case, you choose a number here, and then it is, these three are blocked. So you are only free to choose this one. Now, why does it shows 251? Because you should have 255. Because there are 4 addresses being kept reserved in case of AWS. So these are reserved for a number of things within your AWS infrastructure. Okay, so 4 addresses are kept reserved. So 255 minus 4, that's your 251, is what IPs you have available. So total at the VPC level, you have these many IPs available. That's 255 multiplied by 255, and then finally you have blocked these 3. So you only have last bit, which is 0 to 255, and 4 addresses are being kept reserved. So you have 251 address available. So what does that mean? As soon as this VPC will be created, this VPC will have 251 IP addresses available for you to use. So you would be able to create 251 resources using this particular IP. Okay, so that's how you work with your VPC. But it's simple, you just give it a name, and then once you have given a name, you can decide the endpoint. Endpoint is nothing but you can choose one of the S3 or DynamoDB. For example, we have it for DynamoDB and S3. You can choose one of them. Otherwise, just create VPC and it will create a VPC for you. But like I said, we won't be dealing with this. Instead, we'll be going for a next one. So we'll be creating everything from the scratch, but this is just for your understanding. Okay, so this is what it says. So whenever you create a public subnet, it creates a 16/16 network with a /24 subnet. So your network will have those many addresses, but your subnet will have close to 251 addresses. Okay, now let's get into second topic, which is VPC with public and private subnet. Now what has got changed here? So there is a slight change. Although you do need services for which you would be accessing internet, such as S3, DynamoDB, SNS, SQS, etc. Right? So these services is something you'll be using from internet. But at the same time, you need a private subnet. Maybe your database is running, which you don't want to be exposed from outside world, because your database should be connected only to your inside world. Or maybe there is one of a PC you have created, one of the EC2 instances you have created, where you're doing in-house application. You're building some in-house application. So definitely you don't want that people to access it from outside, but it may be required to access internet sometimes, right? So in such cases, you can additionally make use of NAT. So what you have is private subnet and public subnet and private subnet within your cloud. When you need internet access for the private subnet, you'll be creating a NAT, and then you'll be connecting it through an internet using a NAT device or NAT instance. Okay. And how do you do that? Let's click on select for this as well. Like I said, we won't be creating it using this one, but we will be just learning on there is an easier way to do it through Wizard as well. So again, this is same. So you have these many addresses available, because by default we're giving 16, and then you have these many IP addresses available for your public one, and these many IP addresses available for your private ones. Now this is something you can change. You should try doing it, right? Let's see that. It says no, it overlaps. Why? Because you are trying to get into each other's arena. But what if I change this one? So if I say 2, that's possible, because I'm changing. So this, it is just blocking 24, but if I'm choosing one of these, that should be perfectly fine. Okay, so that is something I can do. Okay, and what if I want to increase it? I want to make it 30. Yeah, right. So you see that. So I can't reduce it, but I can certainly increase it. So I can make it something as 26, because only thing is I will have less number of IPs available based on the number I'm putting in. So 24 by 24, by default it's 8-bit. When I say 26, that means 8 plus 2 more. So now I have just 6 bits available, and in 6 bits how many IP addresses I can generate, that's how it covers there. Okay, so you can choose between your subnet, and you can decide how many IP should be available in that subnet. So one is your public IP and another one is your private IP. That's how you create it for your other configuration where you use private and public. You also have something called NAT, which you can use NAT gateway, but that's been chargeable. But you can create it, and then you can assign it to NAT gateway when you want your private instance to have access to the internet. That's your second configuration.
Question: what's the function of NAT?
So NAT is mainly used for address translation. And what does that mean? So that means it will be connected to one of your private subnets, and that will have a private IP. So NAT will overshadow that, and it will have its own IP, which will be going to internet. So if someone is trying to access from outside, they still will not be able to get to your private subnet, because that's being hidden. And that's what exactly your instance does. It hides the address of your private subnets, and but still able to make you is still able to access the internet and hiding your information. So NAT does your address translation. So it translates between your private and public addresses. So it's a medium between your private and your internet. Okay. So let's go to the third one, which is the third configuration within your VPC, which is VPC with public and private subnet and a hardware and VPN access. Now this is similar to our previous one, except for one change. So what you have internet, which you will be connecting to one of the public subnet. Now your public subnet is connected to your private subnet. Now what you have done is you have connected to a corporate data center. So you want to connect to a corporate data center. At that time, what you would be doing, you would be connecting it only to private subnet. And why do you do that? Because you want to keep it confidential. You don't want any of this information to be leaked. So this is not exposed to internet. This is anyways coming to private network. So that's also, you can't get to the internet to this one through this one. So you only have one of the instances which is in public subnet. So it is allocated to connect to internet, and then these two are connected together, but this is not connected to internet. So when you need such a configuration, when you want to connect to any of the corporate clients or corporate data centers, you'll be using hardware VPN access, and you'll be creating a VPN access between your private and corporate data center, and that's where you create. So it's called virtual private network. So VPN is your virtual private network. So you set up a virtual private network between your private subnet and your corporate data center client. But again, VPN is being chargeable. So if you're creating it, you'll be getting charged for it. So that's your third configuration. And then we have the last one, which is what you see is VPC with a private subnet only and hardware VPN access. So that's been completely secure. So you are telling your customer that it can never have access to the internet. So mainly no one can hack it from the outside, because it is not being exposed to internet at all. So by any means. So it is private within your AWS, and you can connect to your corporate data center, and it is one-to-one connection and private connection. So it's confidential as well. So these are the different configuration which you can create when you are in VPC. So depending upon different requirement, you can choose one of these. So that's in terms of different VPC type which you can select. Now let's go back to what we have to create today. Okay, so we have learned about VPC. Now let's go into creating a VPC. So first step is we have to create a VPC. So let's go, and I am in Virginia region. So it will be creating these VPC in Virginia region. And this one, you can see that one is my default VPC, right? So that is my default. So you should never remove a default one. I'm going to remove these two for now. Okay, let me remove one by one. Okay, I have some instances running on that, it seems. Let me quickly have a look. Okay, just taking time to load up. And yeah, so demo VPC is something what I've created. So I'll terminate it because that's something I don't need. Okay, so that's being done. Let me type it. And let's try removing it now. Yeah. Delete VPN connection, then deleting VPC. Yeah, delete everything. So I'm just deleting it for now, so that I have less numbers. Okay, so first step first, we will be creating a VPC first, and then we will be creating number of resources within VPC, and we will be making a note of it so that we understand how and what we are doing. So for now, I'm just deleting it, so we are not keeping a track of it. In the meantime, let's get started with what we have to do. So okay, so VPC creation, that's our first step, right? So let's do that. So create VPC, that's our first step. So a name tag, I'll just say VPC. Okay, so I've removed it so I can use the same name, VPC demo, and now it's asked for IPv6 block. So I'm going to give 0/16, right? That's the network I have to specify, and then no IPv6. That is something I don't want, and I'll be using default because if I go for dedicated, that's being chargeable, right? So VPC demo and create it. So I've assigned it 16, almost 65,000 addresses to this VPC. Okay, that's being done. So it's created. So first job is done. Okay, so I'm good with it. All right, so let's go to the next step. So VPC is done. What's the next thing? So what all different things I need? I would be needing subnets. I would be needing route tables. I would be needing internet gateways as well. Okay, and I can also have elastic IPs created. and NAT gateways as well. So let's first create subnet. So I mean, it doesn't matter on the number, but only when I have to connect it. So it matters then. Right, so I do have some subnets. Let's see what I'm using. Public subnet, I'm not sure if I'm using it. Let's try deleting it. If it is not used by anything, it will just delete it, right? So it was not utilized. And then these are all the subnets which were being created by the system, right? Okay, so anyways, let's create a subnet for ourselves. So we are creating, first I would be creating a private one, private VPC demo. Okay, subnet. I'm just saying sub. For which VPC I'm creating it for the VPC which I have created, which is VPC demo. So now onwards I'm going to work everything with this particular VPC. So I'll be using this VPC for everything, whatever I will do. So I'm creating a private subnet and I'm choosing VPC. So I'm creating this private subnet for this particular VPC. Availability zones, do I need something? So let's say we are working with East 1, or let's say work with East 1F. So I'm going to do with all these availability zones. So I'll be working with this availability zones. And now let's specify. So that's what I need, right? I can also mention 0, that should be fine. So 0 for 1 and other for 2. But to make it easier so that I remember, let me make it 1 and 2. So I'm creating private VPC now as 1. And then I'll be creating public and I will make it as 2nd. Right, so that's being done. Okay, let's see that. So that's been created. Now I'll be creating next one. Okay, so there is no way I can actually clone it. Okay, then I will say public VPC VPC VPC. Oh damn, what's happening? VPC sub. Okay, so that's my public one. For which VPC I'm creating? VPC demo. So I'll be choosing that. And then again, let's create it on the same availability zones. Otherwise, what happens? I'll be getting private and public addresses from different availability zones. I can certainly do that, but I want to keep it same. Okay, and then address. So this time 2. So I'm choosing 2. So 1 I've created and I'm creating 2 now. And let's create it. So these 2 are created. But do remember that right now I have just created 2, private and public one. But by default, they are still private. So there is no difference as of now. So by default, they are still private. Okay, I will have to decide later on which one should be public and which one should be private. Okay, so that's something we have created. Let's just look at the list. So what it is. So I have private and public right now. I can't segregate between them. It's just because of name. I can say that this is what I want to make public and this is what I want to make private. But as of now, these are private. All right. So what it has done. So as soon as I've created VPC, you can see that it has created some of the resources. So this one is fine because this is what I've chosen, but network ACL is being created already. And then there is a route table created as well for this one, isn't it? So there is a route table. So it is using a default route table actually. Okay, but what I want to create a route table for myself, right? So for that, I'll have to create a routing first. So let's do that. So I'll be creating a route table and I will name it route VPC demo. Okay.
What is the function? What is the function of the route table?
Okay, so router, what it does is it takes, so mainly it's a bridge. It's more act like a bridge between your internet and your instances. Let me just tell you. I can show you the picture so that picture will make it clear. Okay, so that's the actual picture what it does. Okay, but let me give you router functioning so I can tell you better. So router is, this is how it looks when you have it at your home, right? You would be using one of the broadband and few other things.
Okay.
Okay, so it mainly requires for network. Okay, that's good picture. This is what I was looking for. Right. So it works within a network. So let's say this is your router. You have placed your router here, and then what it does is, based on what IPs you will have, it will decide your addressing. So when router connects to internet, it will have different network. So it will have addressing such as 10.1.1, 10.8.3, 10.1.2. For example, in our case, we have created 10.0.1.0 and 10.0.2.0, right? So similar to that. So what it does, router, it will have network addresses available, and then it will know where to connect or how to make connections to it. And that's what it provides functioning for this router. So router, it will have a routing table, and within that it will have detail for your network interfaces, and that's how it knows how to connect. Additionally, you can connect between different routers as well. For example, if there are 3 routers, it can connect between each other. So router 1, router 2, router 3. But if you have machine here, so this is, let's say, your machine, this is my machine, and let's say this is Firoz's machine, right? Now, if this machine has to be connected to this machine, at that time also you can use private routers in that case. So instead of making a connection, LAN to LAN connection, you can go and speak to this, which comes here, and then you can talk to it. Similarly, in the case of internet, consider that this is one of the internets which you are using different applications, right? So if you are accessing a resource from this, you can connect to router, which connects here, goes here, and then this is. So mainly it decides networks on whether it's a permissible network or not. So if you have your routing table correctly set up, it can decide whether you can go to this or not. If you have blocked it somewhere, then you won't be able to go to this particular machine. And that's how mainly it does your routing at the network level. So when I'm creating this router, I'll be adding those addresses to this router, and when we add this addresses, that means whenever you access your EC2 or ELB or any of resources creates, or if you're accessing from the internet, it knows where to go, or this machine goes where to go and hit internet. So that's what it functions. A simple function as your routing, mainly routing your network interfaces. Okay, so I'm creating my router, so that's been created, and when we just need one should be enough. Now a router is created, and it has already created a router table, right? And right now there is no subnet attached to it. So what we'll be doing next, so my router is created. Let's just see some of the details about it. So this is summary, nothing much. Okay, so this is where I'll be looking for. So right now you can see that router has been created, and there is a local target, right? Local target is because of the VPC which I've chosen. So I've chosen VPC, and because my router address is coming from that VPC, so it says target is local. So that's fine. Now I also have subnet association. That means that's here I have to add my subnet which I've created. So the 2 subnet which I have created, I'll be adding it right here. Right now there are no subnet, but there are 2 available. You can see that. Why it's showing these 2 available? Because these are the 2 subnets which are available to this particular VPC. So they are in this particular cloud, they are available, and I can add it. So right now there are no subnet associated. So I'm going to associate it, and what I'm going to do it, I'm just going to include these addresses. Let's add it. I'll say save, and then they should be added. Okay, so I can see that in my router I have added 2 subnets. That's being done. Let's go for route propagation. Now what is this? So you connect router 2 ways, right? Which I told you. So router, when it is connected, so at one way it gets connected to internet, at other way it gets connected to one of the EC2 instances. So what we have done just now, I have included public and private address as of now. So this side connection is done. Now I have to connect it on the gateway side, so this side. And let's see that. So for that, I need some gateway. So my next activity would be to create a gateway and then associate that with this router. So let's create a gateway. So VPC is done, subnet is done, route tables are done, and next is creating a gateway. So let's create one. Let's give it a name. So again, I'll be naming it same, GW VPC demo, so that I know for what VPC and what different servers I've created it. Okay, so you can see that it is being created, but right now it says detached. And why? Because it is not attached to any of your VPC. And how do I attach it? So let's click on that, say attach to VPC, and what VPC I'll be attaching it to? I'll be attaching it to VPC demo. because that's where I want this internet gateway to be available. So now my VPC, okay, it is showing outside actually, but this gateway should be inside this VPC. I cannot move it, but yeah, so it should be inside. So gateway is being included. So I have attached it now. So it shows attachment, right? And it is attached to this VPC, which is just something which we just created. And that which is something which we just created. Okay, I was just moving little. All right, so this is done. And now, so gateway is created and it is available within my VPC. So it's here, but it is not attached. So that attachment is something I'll have to do. So how do I do that? So I'll be going to router table and I have to connect it to router, right? So this is where I'll be connecting it. So now my gateway is ready. I can say edit. Okay, so I don't see that. Okay, so it says it is not attached. Let me just go and check it one more time. Maybe it takes some time to reflect, but that definitely should be there because we can see that it is actually attached to that. Okay, so it is actually attached. Let's try and see one more time. Okay, so it may be taking some time to appear because these networking things sometimes takes time. In the meantime, we can try creating a few other things. Let's create a few elastic IPs as well. So this is something which we created for our EC2 instances. Now I'm going to create one for my VPC. I'll be using it within my VPC. So I can use this later on when I create it for my EC2 instances. Okay, so I'm creating it. And do I have an endpoint? Let's start a few endpoints as well, which we can use. So for endpoint, I can use AWS services and we can go for something for S3. Right, so US East 1 S3. Okay, so that's what I'm choosing. Sorry, come again, please.
Endpoint, what is it for?
Right, so endpoint is for different AWS services. So endpoint is nothing but through which you can communicate. For example, if you want to talk to, so endpoint is more like a URL.
Okay.
So for S3, endpoint would be something like S3 / you know, let's say running.com. So that's your bucket name / maybe index.html. Okay, just for that sake. So when you hit that, it's gonna take you to that. So you would be able to fetch information from that. So endpoint is you can hit that particular service using these URLs. And in AWS, everything will have an endpoint. S3 will have its own endpoint, your CloudWatch. So every services, they will have its endpoint. When you hit that, you will be able to fetch services or fetch information by hitting that endpoint for that particular service. And that's what is called endpoint. For example, let's see that what are the endpoints. So for example, these are the endpoint service names which we are choosing. So we're trying to create an endpoint and there are different services available. This is for cloud formation, cloud trail, code build, so different EC2 another. We are choosing for S3. And I have chosen our VPC demo. And then I'm going to choose this one because in this one I have two subnets available. Okay, and then let's give it full access and create endpoint. Okay, so that's being done as well. Endpoint type is gateway. We can see the route tables as well, which is same as this one. Okay, better. And policy is full. All right, so let's go back here. Okay, so we are good with this. Let's go and see if it is coming here now. Okay, so you can see that it has added that endpoint which we just created. So it was connected to that VPC and it is also added to our endpoint as well. Okay, so that's being done. So there's an endpoint addition. And then, okay, so let me remove this. I don't need this. Okay, so that's being done. Subnet Association is done. So that connection is okay. Now root propagation is, I'm still waiting. Okay, so that will bring up again, no issues. So for now, let's go for NAT gateways, and let's create one NAT gateway as well, so that we can utilize it for private subnets. And what I will be choosing, I'll be choosing the gateway which I have created, which is okay, so that's difficult to find out whether it's private or public. Two 995. Oh, both are same, is it? No, they're, oh, okay, exactly same. No, this is different. That's for VPC. So 5C 365. Let me just quickly validate our subnets. So I need to make sure that I add that NAT gateway to the private one. So this is my private, and it ends with 5C365, and I'll be choosing that one. Okay. So let's go back to our NAT gateway, create NAT gateway, and choose the other one, this one. So this is my private IP, and I'm allocating it to Elastic IP, which I've chosen. Now what this does, this will hide my actual IP address and create NAT gateway. Right, so that's being done. All right, so let's edit route table as well and add it. Okay, it still is not coming. Let me see if I have somewhere else. Okay, so for now, let me do one thing. Let me set as main table for now. Okay, no, it will reset my other things. Okay, no issues. Okay, and then I'm going to create ingress only internet gateway. So it will just get it from the gateway. So this resource also I'm going to add it here for my VPC. Okay, that's being done. All right, so we are good. Now let's see what we have created. So what are the different things we have in VPC? We have routing table, which is this one. Let's see which route table is that. Okay, so okay, that's other routing table. So let me go back and check it. So I should be able to. Okay, so that's the CIDR block. That's okay. Flow control stacks. Okay, so let me do this first. Let me see the subnets here. So this is our NCL, which defines our role. So right now it's allowing all traffic. It says all traffic, and even for the outbound rules, it is same. Yeah. Subnet Association, this should be a private and public IP. Okay, so private and public both are there, and then we are good. Okay, so that's about network. Now we can additionally create security groups, or we can use one of the created ones, something which we have already created. We can also use that. But if we want to create for this, we can create it and then name it for this particular service. All right, so VPC is created, subnet is created, and even route table is created, which we have attached to our VPC. Now we should be able to create our EC2 instance now, and we can see that we will be able to connect to that. Okay, this one, I think it's taking time. All right, we will see that later. It's not coming in. So let's create EC2, and we will see that it should be creating that in our VPC now. Okay, so I'm going to create some resource now. Okay, this is something I created long back. Okay, so I'll have to create a new one. So let's create one. So I'm going to create one new, and we will be now creating it on our VPC. So that will be created within our VPC. So let's create one. This is fine. Let's go for next one. Now this is where I select our VPC, which is VPC demo. So this VPC is what we have created. Subnet, what I'm going to choose, I'm going to create both, right? So use subnetting enable, I would say, so that auto assign public IP, and then capacity reservation. Okay, that's something I don't want at this role. So right now, no roles as well. Okay, so all good. Right, so let's go on. So I've chosen my VPC, I've chosen my subnet, and let's go ahead. Add storage, which is okay, whatever is being created by default, I'm okay with it. Let me just name it so that I know why it was created, and I'll say name and ec2 vpc demo. Okay, and this is nothing but I'm just keeping it same. I can change it at this point as well. Okay, and then I'm choosing a default one. Right, all good. Let's launch it. Okay, so that's being done. Let's go and see, or we can just see it from there. View log, or I can just click on instance, which should be bringing me in here. Okay, so that is actually getting created. Okay, so it's being created, and then there are IPs being generated for that. We have subnet ID as well. And yeah, so let's see what else. Our VPC details are good. Reservation is nothing. And security group, which we decided. Okay, so that's being launched in our VPC. Let's go back to our VPC and see that. So we would be able to see resources within VPC now. Okay, so this anyways, this also gives you a good interface in terms of showing what all things you have. So VPC, we have 4, NAT gateways, we have 1, subnets, we have created 10 so far. Route tables, there are NCLs, 4s, gateways as well. So it gives you quite a number of informations available to you at your fingertips. Okay, so that's our VPC being created, and now this VPC you can use for anything. Now you create your databases, you can use this VPC. You create anything else, you can use this VPC. So that's something which it can be used to create any of those. All right, so we are good. That's being done. There's one thing I wanted to change. Let's see if that's being done. So I have a private. Okay, so there is public VPC and private VPC. I don't know why this is still not visible. It should be visible actually, but for some reason it's not coming up. Okay, so that's there. Okay, now one more thing. So we have learned about public. So we learned 4 configurations. So we created public VPC. We have created the security groups was already there. So we did not create it, but that's something again we can create. We know that. And how do you create it? You just come to the security groups, and you can create any of the security groups here. Okay, and then we created subnet, which is private and public subnets. We created the gateway, router, and NAT gateway. There is one more thing, which is your these VPN, right? So we learned about when you want to connect to your customer data centers. So there are three ways you can do is. First one is customer gateway, which is easy. You just create customer gateway, and then you need information from the customer side. So you can name anything, and then from the customer side you will have an IP. So they will open up their IP so that you can connect to their network. Once you choose that IP, you say create customer gateway, and that's all, it's done. So now you would be able to connect to your customer data center. That's one, so you can directly access it. Other ways, you can create virtual private gateway, and what this does is this will be giving you some details which you'll have to fill. Okay, so let me just say word GW and VPC demo, just to make sure that I keep it same. It helps me when I want to delete those resources, so it's good in that way. And you say what it is, customer ASN or Amazon default. So you're saying Amazon default, that means from Amazon side, which you'll be opening from this end, and then you have to attach it to your VPC. In our case, we'll be attaching it to our VPC, which is this, so that it is connected from the VPC side, and then you can connect it to your customer side. And similarly, we have VPN, which we learned when you want to connect your private instances to your data center. You can use this, but again, all these are actually being chargeable. So what you do, you decide your virtual private gateway, you specify customer ID, you specify routing options, and you specify all these details, and then there will be a direct connection between you and the customer. You'll be using some set of keys between you and the customer, which will create a tunnel for you, and it's secure in a way that no one else can get into it. So these are some of the options which you create. Now once you have created your VPC, VPC gateway, you can come in here, and then you can go to route propagation. I don't know whether it's being created or not. Okay, still not created. Okay, it is actually created, but yeah, it's not appearing here. Okay, so now it's appearing, right? So yeah, it's coming, it has come up now. So it says propagate no. If you choose this, then it will start propagating it. But yeah, for now you don't need it, so I can cancel it, but yeah, it's being already added. So that's about how you create an infrastructure, and you can then create on all services. Once you create your VPC, you create all your resources, you can assure that everything will be created for you inside your VPC, and you will have access to it. So it will not have access to anywhere outside the world. So that's easy way to work, right?
So this VPC can be requested by a customer, right?
Yeah, so it depends upon customer. It can be requested by customer, or you can also, organization can create it for themselves as well. So for their own network, they can create it. But yeah, it may be most of the time, if your customer is moving to the cloud, they will be creating a VPC, and they can create number of different VPC as well within the cloud. And then you can also do this thing. So once you create a VPC, like we were showing, so once you have created a VPC, right, two different VPC, you can even connect them, because there are different configuration of VPC, private, public, and between data center, public. So you can create two different VPC and you can connect them as well. So let's say in one of them you're just running databases and other things, in others you have your EC2 instances. So depending upon your configuration, so you can make a connection between VPC to VPC as well. So you can have different VPC. So because it's like a data center, a private data center, except for the case that it is available on the cloud, and you can use it. So that's the only thing. All right, so that's where we'll wrap up today. And then we would be discussing on Route 53 and CloudFront tomorrow, which is these two. Okay. Oh, sorry, I just forgot to update. So tomorrow and day after tomorrow, 31st and 1st, I won't be available. Okay. and again on 6th. Yeah, it's 6th or 7th something. Yeah, I'll tell you about it. So for now, I'm not here for 31st and 1st, but if you need, we can cover it on weekends as well. I can maybe adjust few weekends, and then we can do it on 9, 10, and at these weekends. If you are interested, we can do it there. So my plan was to complete it by 9th, which we should be able to do it because we are on track. But if you are just taking 2 days off here, I can cover it. If you are interested, I can take 2 weekends for you. If you are fine with it. Otherwise, I can take 2 extra days if we cannot cover the course.
I was even gonna say tomorrow too. My office we have a tomorrow is Halloween. They have some Halloween thing tomorrow night. So I was even not gonna be available. I was gonna ask if I was not be.
It's good, right? Then it works for both of us. Great.
Yeah,
right. So like it's like you were about to say something, but something I gave it to you before.
Yeah, I was planning on then letting you guys know for tomorrow, but for Thursday I'll be available, and Friday I'll be traveling. So it's only on Thursday. So you'll not be available on the first Thursday?
Okay, so yeah, so I will be available on 2nd.
Yeah, I'm traveling on the 2nd, which is Friday.
Okay. Then we can do it on Monday. Or like if you need, we can do it on Saturday and Sunday as well. Your wish.
Yeah, we can start on Sunday so that we catch up.
Okay, so we can do it on Sunday, right?
Yeah.
So I will let Firoz know about it. So we can do one session on Sunday, so that we can catch up on whatever we have left.
Yeah, it will give me time to catch up too with the videos. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, that will also give you a chance, some 2-3 days off, so you would be able to catch up. Okay, so sounds good. So I think it's fine. So sounds like a plan. So in that case, so you are traveling on Friday, so we'll catch up on Sunday. Okay, that should be
Sunday.
fine. Yeah. Okay, so Sunday. So Firoz, please make a note that we are again connecting on Sunday. Anyway, I'll post a message, but yeah.
All right.
All right. Thank you then. Thank you. Have a good time. Bye-bye. Good night.